this is Najee.
And I'm Luke Skywalker.
And we're going to be reviewing The Last Jedi. So yeah, okay, so this movie's been out for over a month. Sorry, reviews are late. Technical problems. This is only the second time I'm going to say this. So yeah, we're going to review this movie. We are going to say spoilers. If you haven't seen the movie yet and you don't want to know spoilers, don't watch this. Come back later. Because we're not going to hold back. Real quick plot synopsis. Since the last time we saw Rey and Finn and them, Rey has gone and found Luke Skywalker to train her as a Jedi. Finn has recovered from his injuries. And Finn, Poe, and a couple other characters are caught up in a situation where basically they are on a run from the First Order. And the situation is looking dire as they're running out of options. And Rey and Kylo Ren are having a weird connection where they're psychically linked to each other. That's the really brief plot synopsis, really basic one. Okay, Tyler. What did you think of The Last Jedi?
What is the word? I'm gonna talk a little bit about before we watched this movie.
Okay.
So we didn't see it when it first came out. Mostly because I was waiting for my girlfriend and everything, and we're all just waiting. So I think it was about 2 weeks in before we actually watched The Last Jedi.
Yes.
So we were dying. But, so we started hearing all the reviews about it, and it was super, I'm pretty sure it was like half and half.
Yeah.
Either you hated it or you loved it.
Yes.
So for the first movie, The Force Awakens, I watched every trailer. We did this, I did this, it was a self-experiment, no one told me to do it.
Yeah.
I watched every movie trailer and everything about it before we watched it.
Yes.
Onaje didn't watch anything on purpose. So this time around, I've only watched one trailer, and you only watched one trailer, which, thank God I did, because I didn't have any expectations of like what this movie was going to be. I knew it was going to be darker, just because of like the storyline and, you know, where I think it was going to go.
Yeah.
I will say when we watched it, it was not what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
I don't know how you felt about it. It wasn't the way I thought it was going to go.
Yeah.
Kind of like Luke Skywalker.
Wow.
But yeah, I'm going to come out and say, I'm acting like this is a big moment. I'm going to say that I actually really liked this movie. Because Rian Johnson took a chance and did something different. You know, and everyone was talking about, like, you know, when the first movie came out, oh, it's too much like the first movie, and it's basically a remake. So Rian Johnson, you know, took that and he made it different. He was like, oh, it's strayed too far. That's what you guys sound like. That's what you Star Wars people sound like. Oh, you strayed too far. And I'm just like, okay, well, what do you want? What do you fans want? You know what I mean? I think this was a good step in a different direction because it's totally changed like where the, you know, story was gonna go.
Yeah.
You know, I also am gonna say like I liked what they did with Luke Skywalker's character. A lot of people disagreed with it and they're like, that's not what he would do. I think that's totally what he would do. A bunch of years have passed. He's seen an empire. He's, you know, stopped an empire. He's seen a new one rise. And yeah, he would be definitely worried. His father was on the dark side, you know. And this person that Kylo... So in the movie, we find out that Kylo Ren was an apprentice of his at the Jedi Temple. And what happens is Luke Skywalker has this sort of like fear that he's going to become... Because Kylo Ren is super strong as far as like the Force and everything. So he was worried that with all this power, he's going to become, you know, evil. So Luke Skywalker kind of has this moment where he's like, I'm going to kill him. I'm going to stop him before it happens. And to me, yeah, because Luke Skywalker's seen some shit. I think he'd totally do that.
I mean, it's like a moment of weakness. Like, he only thinks about it for a second, and he instantly regrets it.
And he regrets it, yeah.
But unfortunately, Kylo did not know that.
Yeah.
He only saw the part where his uncle was standing over him with the lightsaber thinking about killing him. So, yeah, it's kind of tragic.
Because I still think they did. It wasn't like, oh, now he's a bad person. Like, Luke Skywalker's a bad person. I'm like, no, he contemplated. Yeah, exactly what you said. He had a moment of weakness. Like a normal person.
Like a normal, interesting character.
Yeah. Because if Luke Skywalker, like, if I go back to like the original series, like, or the original trilogy, his character's pretty like
He's like bratty.
like milquetoast,
And
like
he has-
very like John.
He might have some anger issues.
Yeah.
So sometimes, like that part where he starts fighting his father and he starts hacking away at his dad.
Yeah.
Like you definitely see a little bit of like, oh, some dark side there.
Like, you guys sad because your hero can possibly be a villain, maybe?
Yeah.
Like, he had some dark moments. I think that's good.
I heard some people were upset because the after the original Star Wars movies ended, there was sort of an extended universe. Or like, I guess it was a pretty deep extended universe, and the Luke in that is very different. He's almost like a walking god. He's so strong, and I think some people wanted to see that Luke.
Yeah.
But Rian Johnson did not have any. He was not interested in that because I think Rian Johnson understood that that's not an interesting character, like at all. Like if Luke just basically like if they just found Luke and then Luke just solved all their problems, that wouldn't be interesting. That wouldn't be very human either.
Yeah.
Because he has quite a bit of weight on his shoulders. Yeah, like you said. I think the biggest one is that fact that he failed his nephew and he let down his sister and his best friend because they trusted him with their son. And that would mess you. Not only that nephew of yours killed a bunch of the Jedi that you were training so you couldn't protect them.
Also
and then
killed
stole
Han
them.
Solo.
And killed Han Solo.
Your friend.
Your friend. So yeah, you may not be super up to, try again. I mean, and then I think he makes some good comment about the Jedis where, yeah, when we've watched the Jedis, they kind of have a history of failing. In the original, I guess in the new trilogy, yeah, the Jedi screw up pretty bad. They have some pretty unhealthy views on life. Like, oh, if you have an emotion, just jam that down real deep.
Yeah.
Like human psychology says, like, no, anything you kind of try to jam down is going to pop back up, usually worse. And that's kind of how they lost Anakin. But yeah, I feel you on the Luke thing. I like the Luke. I actually wish, like, one of my only complaints is, like, I actually wish we had more of the Luke character.
Yeah.
Because anytime it was Rey and Luke, I was real interested.
What I wasn't interested in was, unfortunately, John Boyega's character and that Asian girl, which is kind of sad. I wish that storyline was a little interesting. I didn't really care for the love thing that was kind of going on.
It was just kind of oddly set up.
Yeah.
I'm curious what they're gonna do because they had sort of established that maybe that John Boyega's character maybe had a thing for Rey.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a little moment where Rey looks over at him and Rose, and you can't. It's hard to read. Like, is she jealous or is she like, oh, what's this? Like, it's hard to kind of read her in that moment because they set up the fact that her and Kylo might have a little. No, not really. I think people were kind of exaggerating a little bit on that. I definitely think they have an interesting dynamic, but I don't know if there's like a romantic one necessarily.
I think another problem people had, from what I heard, was what the Force is.
Yeah.
And like the extent of like what you can do with it.
Yeah.
And that everybody has it in them.
Yeah.
But, it was explained in the other movies that it's a life force. It's in everything. That's the point, you know? And also, like, that's why I also like that this is called The Last Jedi, because it's also, I think, him as a director was closing the chapter on all this shit from, the past and, bringing something new to the table. It's an evolution. We're seeing something different with the Force, and I think that's another interesting thing to do.
Yeah.
I definitely think it's going to be interesting when J.J. Abrams comes back, because I was talking to you earlier, too, about J.J. Abrams, where he's a really good director. I think he's solid and everything. He has this thing about... But, he has this thing where the structure is very basic, I would say.
He has certain tendencies where he likes to do a form of storytelling called mystery box storytelling, where basically... Like, the first movie has a bunch of things set up, right? Like, what happened to Luke, what happened to Kylo, who were Rey's parents, and those are very J.J. Abrams-y thing where he'll drop questions that kind of are like little intriguing, like, oh, where's that gonna go? Mm-hmm. Sometimes that blows up in his face, like Lost, that blew up in his face real hard. And it seems like Rian Johnson with this movie took those and went like, I have no interest in doing that, so I'm just gonna subvert not only some of the storytelling techniques that J.J. Abrams likes, he also seemed to be subverting the expectations for this movie. Of a lot of people are going, okay, this is going to be the Empire Strikes Back. This is going to be the dark one. With this movie, it's almost like he fused the Empire Strikes Back with the Last Jedi. So that way now, I don't know what they're going to do for their third movie, because they can't just copy the Last Jedi anymore. Because he sort of put it in this movie, but also subverted it.
Return of the Jedi? You're talking about?
Return of the Jedi. He sort of like that whole throne scene with Snoke. That's pretty much the end of Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Except it gets subverted, and he does that beautifully, and I like that because, yeah, I don't want to just because the first movie had a flaw of the fact that it's basically just a remake of Star Wars: A New Hope. I mean, even though the characters were really engaging and it's shot very well, it's basically trying to replicate the Star Wars: A New Hope because the prequels had sort of screwed it up, so Disney had to make sure it was safe. But it also made it where the story wasn't as exciting because, like, if you know A New Hope, you kind of know how the movie's gonna move. While with this one, I didn't know how this was gonna move.
Yeah, he's not the really, whole thing actually. I was like, where are they going with this? And they do this thing kind of like I'd say kind of like The Good Place if you haven't watched it, where they're going through movies worth of like content. You're like, what are they gonna do? They just like fucking. I think by the end of this movie too, there's a big plot point where they're like, okay, the rebels are coming back because Luke Skywalker came back and he started the rebellion again.
Yeah.
But now I don't know where they're going. Spoiler, they killed Snoke, which I totally didn't see coming because I thought he was gonna be the big villain, and he fucking basically the director did anything that you thought was gonna happen. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna just shake the table up here.
Yeah, and I enjoyed that.
Yeah, which is really good. I'd also like to say on this is a totally different note. This is one of the best shot Star Wars movies.
Yes.
I don't know. Do you know the DP?
I do not. I know it's Rian Johnson's usual DP. Yeah, this was probably one of this. There's several images from this movie that are so striking. Like that part in the throne room is so interesting because it's shot so beautifully.
And I love those scenes where they're like, where I can be like a little fanboy. You get up in my seat like, oh shit, let's go.
Especially, I guess you could spoil it. That part with the hyper warp speed, or whatever it's called. What is it called?
Yeah.
Hyperdrive. What is it called?
Like the
I don't
speed
know.
or whatever.
The thing that the Millennium Falcon uses to go, I think it's called light speed.
Light speed, yeah.
Light speed. Light speed is used in this movie in a way that we've never seen it used before.
But when we thought about it, we were like, oh shit, yeah, that could possibly. So basically in the scene, what is the
Hodor?
Yeah.
Hodor? I don't forget her name.
Laura
Dern.
So they're part of the rebellion. They have this ship, and they're trying to escape the clutches of the New Order. And the ship is coming closer and closer, and they have no idea how they're going to escape because it's inevitably they're not going to be able to. So she sacrifices herself, takes the ship, and puts it in hyperdrive, and literally goes through the New Order ship with it.
Basically suicide bombs.
It is one of the most beautiful, devastating, shocking scenes ever. Because I think you even saw me and my brother like in the middle of the theater. We're like, oh.
Oi.
Yeah, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
So basically, it goes through the ship and there's no sound. Like they decided to just put no sound, and you're just like,
you just watch the devastation that it left, and you go, holy crap! I didn't know that thing was so powerful. That's scary.
And it's also like, yes, because it's also a win for them.
Yeah.
But someone's also sacrificing themselves, so it's like...
Yeah. I would say something I didn't like about this movie, and I'm going to compare it to another movie that I think has a sort of oddly similar structure, is I think the first movie, one of the strengths I liked about it is I liked these characters together. Like, I loved Rey and Finn and Han and all these characters together. This movie breaks them apart, and I noticed the movie was a little bit weaker for it. I would say this movie reminded me very much of Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Because one of the strengths of Guardians of the Galaxy was having all these characters together, and in the second one, they make a conscious decision to break the group apart into different groups, and I definitely think it affected the movie, just like I think it affected this movie a little bit.
Which, I like that, but yeah, it depends on how you do it, you know what I mean? Like, you have to be very careful with doing that because when you split up the characters, I get it. You know, they're growing differently and they're in different situations, and I think that's good because when they come back together, they'll be different people again.
Yeah, I'm hoping in the third movie that they come back together.
I don't know what they're gonna do with Kylo Ren's character. It's very interesting. He seems like he's gonna be the big
I
villain.
think he's the villain. I think I was totally wrong. Like I thought he was gonna have a whole like redemption arc. I don't think he has gonna have that now.
He's too far, I think. Unless
Yeah,
he does, maybe. But
I wondered if J.J. Abrams had that arc in mind for him, but I think Rian Johnson just totally blew that up.
Yeah.
Which I love.
so I think that's what's like upsetting for people is like it just changed the whole thing. Like they don't know where it's going. I'm like, I love that. That's good.
Yeah, shouldn't that be? I mean, do you want to know everything that happens in a movie? Why are you watching it then?
That
Shouldn't wanna know
lightsaber
everything.
isn't the color that I expected. I don't know.
Yeah, I think maybe because for Star Wars, for a lot of people, Star Wars is kind of comfort food movies, sort of the way the Marvel movies are, where you kind of, it's a little different from for the most part. You're walking into it knowing what's gonna sort of go down.
Yeah.
But I think Rian Johnson, especially because the kind of director he has no interest in doing that. So I'm glad Disney gave him the ability to do this.
Yeah.
They like it's
Someone greenlit it.
Yeah, someone greenlit. Like I'm glad that they weren't scared because they've been getting some criticisms recently of the Marvel movies getting rid of directors like Edgar Wright and the Han Solo movie getting rid of the directors Chris Lord and Tim Miller, or maybe their last names are swapped. I don't know, but like getting rid of directors that maybe don't want to jive with what they're doing, but they took a chance on Rian Johnson. I think he's supposed to be getting his own trilogy in this universe.
Oh really?
Yeah. Which I mean, I don't know if they're going to do it now because there's so much criticism of the movie now that they may be starting to backpedal, but hopefully they don't. Because I can only imagine what he could do when he has his own original story, where he's not beholden to certain things that were set up before.
That's interesting. I want to see that. But yeah.
Anything else in there?
No. If you haven't seen it yet, I think you should definitely go. This is one of those movies. This is one of those blockbusters. Like I think you need to see it in the theater for sure.
Yeah, especially one so divisive. Like I never thought a Star Wars movie would be so divisive because the Force Awakens was the general consensus was this is good and mostly everyone liked it. This one is like we go to film school. Every time I love bringing this movie up just because I don't know what someone's gonna say.
Yeah.
They're either gonna love it or they're gonna hate it most of the time, and that's really interesting because I didn't expect to get that from a Star Wars movie.
I'd say regardless, you can't deny that this movie took a risk, and I think that's what we need more of. I think, especially in a series like this, that's so. I love when people just take something that's so connected to your childhood and stuff.
No. New
Change.
direction.
Change.
Yeah. So if you guys have any thoughts, leave them down in the comments. Like, share, and subscribe. And we'll be back with some more reviews.
And hopefully we don't. Damn, I'm not playing.
We're not the last reviewer.